But let's get into this mock draft. I think I got a pretty good mock draft here. Again, this Quez Watkins move might shift some things around a little bit, but I don't think it does, at least in the first 3 or 4 rounds. And you'll see what I'm saying as we go here. So, the first pick in the Deke mock draft 1.0 for the Pittsburgh Steelers is clear and obvious. See, I did mock drafts over the last day or so, and I have picked this guy in every one of my mock drafts because I wanted to do those just to see, all right, what players are listed around each pick, right? For the first pick, you got a Jackson Powers Johnson, you got a couple of the cornerbacks, you got guys there. You got some decent players. You got a bunch of those receivers. Like 3 of the 4 top receivers are going to go early in the top 15, but you got a lot of other guys that are sitting there at 20. So that's an option. We could trade up, but this is the most obvious one. You just got to pick Jackson Powers Johnson if he's there and forget about it. We need a center so bad. This dude is in a tier amongst himself versus all the other centers in this draft class. I think you could get away with Zach Frazier in the second round if you wanted to pass on JPJ, but I don't want to take that risk because some mock drafts have Zach Frazier going in the late first, early second, and then I think it's a drop-off after him for the rest of the centers. It's JPJ, it's Zach Frazier, and then a drop-off. Now, that Duke dude is gaining some steam. I got to look at him. Maybe he could be a viable option in the second round if we passed on Jackson Powers Johnson. But from what I know right now, there's only 2 centers that I think can start for us next year, and it's JPJ and Zach Frazier. And I don't want to risk either one of them not being there in the second round. So you just take him, forget about it. You got your starting center. You got the lineage going here with the Steelers of great centers that you draft. And Marquise Pouncey, you had a Dermontti Dawson, a Mike Webster. You got a ton of good setters. Jeff Hardings. Jackson Powers Johnson is the next on that list. At least that's what you're hoping by drafting him in the first round here at pick 20. And he should be available. He was literally available in every mock draft run that I've done. And then if you look at the last 4 or 5 just NFL drafts that have happened over the last 4 or 5 years, centers don't go before 20. I think Tyler Linderbaum was one of the dudes most recently that went in the first round, but he went 27, 28. So centers don't typically go that high. If you want to compare Jackson Powers Johnson to Tyler Linderbaum in terms of prospects, they're probably the same. Jackson Powers Johnson probably isn't as much of a technician as Linderbaum, but he definitely has more power and athleticism. But he also is a technician. He is very deserving of being the first center off the board and just being taken in the first round at some point. So I like that pick. It needs to happen. Unless we make a trade at some point before the draft for a center, just take Jackson Powers Johnson, forget it. Even trade up if you have to. If you're getting nervous and you got to trade up a few picks, do that. We did it for Broderick Jones. We need to do that for a center. My second pick, and this is pick number, what number is this? 51 in the second round. Pick number 51 in the second round. The first round was pick number 20, if you guys didn't know that. I'm sure a bunch of you guys know that, though. I'm going wide receiver out of Oregon, Troy Franklin. He's the one dude I looked at and I was like, you know what? I think this guy, he's almost like a Brandon Ayuk. He's not as big physically as a Brandon Ayuk, but man, he's got the speed. He's got the take the top off the defense, but the route running is A1 as well. He can get separation. He could be that Deontay Johnson replacement for us. I looked at some other receivers that might be available at this time. Leggett out of South Carolina. I really like him. He reminds me of an A.J. Brown. I wouldn't be opposed to getting him. Pearsall. Is that how you pronounce his name? Pearsall out of Florida. He's not bad. And then also Ladd McConkey. Those are a few of the names that are going to be available in the second round. You also got Xavier Worthy. I think he's probably going to go late first, early second. I don't know if he's going to be available for us because of that 40 time in the combine. Jalen Polk, Jermaine Burton out of Alabama, Roman Wilson might be available. The one that stuck out to me the most, though, if he is available, I would go Troy Franklin because I think he gives you everything you need, man. Everything you need from a Deontay Johnson replacement standpoint. And just it appears the way the Steelers want to start trending on offense and speed. Like he is speed, he's separation. Now the question is, I am wondering, going back to the Quez Watkins conversation, he does trend more towards like what Quez Watkins brings to the table with the speed. But I think this guy's such a good route runner and creates separation off the line of scrimmage that I don't think I don't think you necessarily have to pass on him because of the speed. You know what I mean? And then talking about some of those other receivers too, like a Lad McConkey, I feel like a little bit more possession guy, a little bit more slot guy, him or a Ricky Purcell. Slot guys, possession guys, across the middle of the field type of guys, they're fast too. So, like, I don't even think we got to worry about speed, having too much speed in the receiver room. Forget that. No. Let's get a lot of speed. That's something that we've been lacking with our offense over the last like 4 or 5 years. Let's get speed. Let's keep the trend going of what we've been doing in the offseason and adding speed to the offense. So, yeah, so in terms of like adding a complement, maybe more of a possession receiver, I don't think we got to worry about that, at least in this round. Let's just get the best guy available. I think the best guy would be a Troy Franklin. Next pick, 3rd round. Now, you guys could tell me I'm reaching here, or some of these guys are too good for the spots that I have them being selected at. I'm just going off what some of these mock drafts were saying. I'm going Jeremiah Trotter Jr. This is the round 3 pick, number 84. We do have a second round 3 pick. That's 98. That was from the Kenny Pickett trade. But I thought Jeremiah Trotter Jr., when this draft process started, he was going to be a late first, early to mid second round pick. But apparently he's been slipping a little bit, which is fine with me because I think this dude is going to be awesome in the NFL. He's a little undersized. He reminds me a lot of a Landon Roberts, a guy that we already have on our team right now. But for those of us that have watched Landon Roberts play, this is a very good thing. And what makes Jeremiah Trotter better, in my opinion, is he's more athletic. He's more shifty. He's more agile than a Landon Roberts. And then not to mention the pedigree of his dad being in the league in the past and his dad being a really, really good linebacker in the league. I think he made like 4 or 5 Pro Bowls back in his day with Philly and also with Washington. So this guy, dude, just watch him. He's a Steeler linebacker. So, like, if we have Patrick Queen locked up for the next 3 years and we're looking for his sidekick for the long term, I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. would be the answer. Linebacker out of Clemson. Watch him, man. Watch him. It's tough to describe his play outside of he's a Steeler linebacker. Physical, will get after it. But I think he's more athletic than an Landon Roberts. Landon Roberts displays all that same stuff that I just mentioned. All that same stuff. But he's not as good in coverage. I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is a little bit better in coverage. I don't think he's ever going to be at an elite level in coverage. But that's why you have a Patrick Queen. Like, they would be, I think, a dynamic duo for the next however many years we could keep Patrick Queen, but also same with Jeremiah Trotter. We'd have him for, 4 years after we draft him. Hopefully you sign him long term. Hopefully that would be a duo for like 7, 8 years if you could draft Jeremiah Trotter. Hopefully you can. And Cole Holcomb, man, like, I don't know how much you could rely on him. So I think we do need to draft a linebacker, point blank, period, at some point in this draft in the first 4 rounds. I think we got to add some insurance. Now, if you want to lean more coverage linebacker, because that's something we're missing in the room right now, I'd be for that too. Like a Cedric Gray. Maybe you could grab him here. Or maybe you could even grab him later because he was available in some of the 4th rounds that I was mocking. But I'm going Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And then next pick in the 3rd round, our second pick in the 3rd round, number 98. Yeah, again, this was the one from the Kenny Pickett trade. We swapped with the Eagles. We swapped one of our 4th rounders with them for this late 3rd rounder. I'm going cornerback. That's something that we need to address. But I think with the addition of Dante Jackson and that Deontay Johnson trade, it's something that we can sit on. If the time's not right, we could wait. We could see how the board plays out. Like if a Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is there in the third round and you had no inkling that he was going to be there for you, take him and then maybe draft a corner with this pick. And Andrew Phillips, this would be the pick. There's some other names, man, like Jackson out of Oregon. I don't mind, but I feel like Phillips moves a lot better than Jackson. Jackson's tall, he's physical, but he had that one game against Washington where some of those Washington receivers, and we know Odunze and then Polk, they're going to be top receivers taken in this draft. He was struggling with them. He was struggling with the footwork. He was struggling just to keep up with them. So I think he might be better in zone with that big body frame as opposed to being like a lockdown man corner. Now with Phillips, dude, I think he's a physical corner. I think he can match up well with anyone. Like he's a little bit undersized, but you see him at the Senior Bowl going up with Keon Coleman from Florida State. Like he's not backing down from anything. He was able to keep up with him, like 6'7". Not only like keep up with him stride for stride, but also when the ball was thrown his way, he was able to jump and go after that, bat it down. So like Phillips out of Kentucky, man, I think this dude is a name to watch. He's going to be rising up these draft boards and up these mocks the closer we get to the draft. Definitely a name to look out for. He might not be available this late in the third round, but I like him. And there's another dude out of Florida State that's not bad either. He's like a man press corner that I wouldn't mind in this spot, but he might be rising too. So if you could get a corner and Andrew Phillips with this second pick in the third, a Jeremiah Trotter with the first pick in the third, Troy Franklin in the second, and in the first, Jackson Powers Johnson, man, we're sitting pretty. We are sitting pretty. I think Andrew Phillips, like he's a versatile player too. Like he played outside in Kentucky, but I think you can move him inside. Dante Jackson, he's played outside for most of his career in the NFL, but played some of the slot in college. Like you could interchange those two at times. So yeah, man, I think Andrew Phillips, definitely a name to watch. Definitely a guy that the Steelers, I think, should have on their radar. Plays really physical, man. Really physical. Even though he's 5'11", he gets after it. Let me go over these last three picks real quick, and then I'll see what you guys are saying in the chat. We'll go over these last few briefly. At 4, I think we got to go defensive tackle. We got to go depth on the defensive line. And the guy that I liked in this range is McKinley Jackson out of Texas A&M. Looks like, I mean, Casey Hampton, kind of. Casey Hampton-esque in terms of his physique. I'm not going to say he's going to be Casey Hampton for us or anything, but I think that's one thing we're missing on this defensive line. We have some decent depth. We got really good top-end players right now. Keanu Benton, hopefully Cam Hayward comes back from this injury pretty well. With him having that Walter Payton Man of the Year patch, I think he should be playing with a little bit of a boost if we let him wear the patch. But you got Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton, Larry Ogunjobi, we signed to a decent contract last offseason. We re-signed Montravius Adams. The Marvin Leal will be back. You know, he's got upside. We took him in the third round a couple years ago. So I think if we get like just a big bulldozer type of dude on this D-line, that would round out the room. And McKinley Jackson, from the looks of it, will be able to provide that for us out of Texas A&M. Last two picks. Now, this is where the Quez Watkins pickup might change this selection for the Steelers. Luke McCaffrey. My thinking was, this was before the Quez Watkins trade or signing happened. My thinking was, okay, you got Pickens, you got your 2 in Troy Franklin, and then you pick up a Luke McCaffrey and have him compete with like Van Jefferson, with Calvin Austin for that wide receiver 3/slot role. And I like McCaffrey, man. It's not like he can only play the slot too. You look at him at Rice, some of these passes, he's on the outside down the field. He's making circus catches. And he's got the pedigree. We know Mike Tomlin loves that here in Pittsburgh. McCaffrey's brother is obviously Christian McCaffrey. And going back to Jeremiah Trotter, same thing. Like that's another reason I think there's going to be more of a leaning towards the Steelers potentially taking these type of guys. You got Rice out of USC too. Watch out for him. But yeah, I think Luke McCaffrey would be. I honestly, I would still take him. Why not just load up on receivers? And going back to what I said at the beginning here, just throw darts at a dartboard of guys that have pedigree, upside, talent, whatever, and see who pans out and see who could be like that solid 3 or 4 for us for this upcoming season. I think that's what you do. And I think a Luke McCaffrey would be a great guy to add into the room. And then last, this one was tough. This one was really tough. I don't know if he's going to be here. He's that Colorado State tight end who's made some waves thus far this offseason. But he's supposedly like a fullback / tight end. What I was trying to look for is like a fullback because we got Arthur Smith as our offensive coordinator. And the only 2 guys that are really listed is Dallin Holker, Colorado State's tight end. They have him listed as tight end / fullback. And then the dude from Florida State. I forget what his name is. Yeah, it's escaped me. But there's a guy from Florida State that's listed as like a fullback. He used to play at South Carolina, I guess transferred to Florida State. He's like an H-back, fullback type of guy. That's it. And if I'm going to pick between the 2, the Florida State dude doesn't look like he's going to be as good of a blocker as a Dallin Holker. So I'm going to lean more blocking. But Dallin Holker, from everything I've seen, looks more like a traditional tight end. I don't think he moves as well as the Florida State fullback, but I think he's a better blocker. So, and that's what you want from a fullback. Like, you're going on a collision course against, 250-pound linebackers. Like, you want a dude that is going to be able to hold up for the long term. So I'm going Dallin Holker with this pick. I don't know if he's going to be available because I think he is shooting up the draft boards a little bit. This tight end class is a little weak. Might go as like the 4th, 5th, or 6th tight end. But if teams aren't targeting tight end like that in the draft, he could slip. Who knows? He was available in the mocks. I'll just leave it at that. But I could see him also not being available. I'm looking for a fullback guy, though. I'm looking for like a versatile fullback, like what we want Connor Hayward, or what Connor Hayward is. But I don't think he's going to be able to hold up as a fullback in Arthur Smith's system. We need a more traditional fullback that is versatile, that is more geared towards the modern age. Like Kyle Juszczyk. I mean, if we get a Kyle Juszczyk, that would be perfect. But that's more what I'm thinking. Like Connor Hayward, he ain't that. I think he leans more like tight end / slot receiver than tight end / fullback, just with his body type. Unless he bulks up a ton this offseason, I think we got to get one of those type of fullbacks or like versatile dudes back there. I don't think Darnell Washington is the solution either. Some people might be bringing up his name. But what do you think of this mock draft? Give me a grade. I think it's pretty good. Like, I would be ecstatic if this is what the Steelers did. I don't think we got to worry about quarterback, man. We got Wilson. We got Fields. Pick up an undrafted dude or pick up another one of these guys that are out there in free agency on a cheap contract to be your QB3. Like, I'm not stressing about quarterback. So you got some names here in the 6th round. Like a Luke McCaffrey, that guy can have impact. A Dallin Holker, this guy can have impact. I don't want to waste it on a quarterback that shouldn't be seeing the light of day this year. Anthony Smith says we need an inside linebacker. I'm guessing you made that comment before I threw Jeremiah Trotter up there. SN the Chief 18 says need a slot cornerback. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking with this Andrew Phillips pick. Like, he is more outside. I think he can play the slot for sure. You look at his play style. But there are going to be some guys available there in that latter half of the 3rd round that are like strictly slot corners. There's a guy, am I just going to say that Florida State guy again? There's a couple guys from Florida State. I already mentioned the fullback dude, but I forgot his name. Who's the guy from Florida State? I don't think I wrote his name down. I didn't. I'm sorry. There's a guy from Florida State. I think his last name is Jones. Is it Jermaine Jones? I might have botched that up. But I think he's got a J in his name. He's like legitimately a slot corner. He was their guy for them last year, playing in the slot, like specifically the slot. You look at his slot snaps and everything. He was that dude. So that could be an option. And he's supposed to be available like late 3rd round. Mike Sanders still is being brought up. I think he might go 2nd. He might be a Brian Branch type of dude, you know. I like him too, but I'd rather go receiver than slot corner. We could even pick up a slot corner in free agency. We could bring back Chandon Sullivan if we really wanted to. SN the Chief 18 says, so you have Queen Roberts, Holcomb, Robinson, and inside linebacker. You add Trotter. Sorry, I'm going right tackle with the first, third pick. That's fair. I think Jeremiah Trotter's that good, though. And I feel like the Steelers like Dan Moore. Like, whether it's going to be Dan Moore at left tackle or Broderick Jones, I think he's going to be starting at one of those tackle positions this year. Hopefully it's Broderick at left and Dan Moore at right, because I think Dan Moore could be pretty good for us at right tackle potentially. He's been inconsistent. I get it. Jerry and Jones. Is that it? Okay. Thank you. And then Jaheim Bell. Yes. Thank you, guys. Those are the names of the Florida State guys. Jaheim Bell was like the fullback dude, and Jerry and Jones was the slot corner. Yeah, the no offensive tackle is I just think the Steelers vibe with Dan Moore. We definitely need some depth. So if we wanted to take maybe an offensive tackle at some point, you guys are bringing up third round. I think one of these 6th round picks, like if we, with us signing Quez Watkins, if we wanted to take Luke McCaffrey off the board and pick up a dude like Frank Crum out of Wyoming late in the 6th round, I wouldn't be opposed to that because we do need some offensive tackle depth. That is 100% true. I wouldn't mind signing a Matt Fowler, though, to provide that depth for us. I think that'd be perfect. Spin the block on him. Sam Smith-Nosky says, don't forget we got Corey Trice. That's another reason why I like this Andrew Phillips pick over Jackson out of Oregon, because Jackson out of Oregon, he's got that avatar prototype like a Corey Trice and a JPJ. Andrew Phillips, he's a small, feisty dude, man. I wouldn't even say he's that small. He's not like Mike Hilton small. He's like 5'11". But then you look at his combine and what he did from an athleticism standpoint and how he hung out there with any of those dudes at the Senior Bowl, like, I think this guy's going to be really good. He's got that dog in him. He's got that Steeler type of mentality. He almost reminds me a little bit of Lassiter out of Georgia. If you see Lassiter play cornerback, he almost plays cornerback like a linebacker. But Lassiter just, a little bit bigger of a frame. I think Andrew Phillips got a little bit of that in him, but might have better ball skills than Lassiter. That's the one thing I think Lassiter is missing out on is his ball skills. He needs to improve on that. C+. Come on, man. Did good at adding to what we need, but so many better players at those positions. Okay, wow. I thought I was giving us homer picks here. I thought I was giving us too good of a players for those specific slots. Like those first 4 picks, man. Dude, if you mean to tell me I think the whole draft is good. I think the whole draft's awesome, actually. Yeah, those first 3 picks, man. I'd be in heaven. I would love that. What do you guys think of the receiver pick, though, of Troy Franklin? Do you like him, or do you rather have someone else? Bro, the production was there last year at Oregon. I'm telling you, just watch him, man. Like he separates from these DBs like an instant. It's DJ-esque, but this guy has top end speed too. I think he ran like a 4.39 at the combine, but might even be faster on the field. Better football speed than actual combine speed. I'm telling you, man, he blazes fast, these dudes. Leggett does that too at South Carolina. He looks awesome. I was thinking about him, but I don't think Leggett gets as good a separation as a Troy Franklin off the line of scrimmage. So if I'm gonna have a guy complimenting Pickens, give me a Deontay type, like a Troy Franklin. Gets that more QB friendly down the field. But we got a Pickens for that. Pickens is QB friendly down the field too. A- from Parker Zero. Thanks. Playboy J says Brian Thomas much better pick than Troy Franklin. I agree with you. He's gonna go in the first round though. He's not gonna be there. We can't get Jackson Powers Johnson in the first and then Brian Thomas in the second. That's just not gonna happen. Now, if you wanted to risk taking Brian Thomas in the first and then get a center in the second, you could do that. I don't want to risk it with center, man. I think there's too many good receivers out here that we could get a dude in the second or the third that can have impact. We need a center, though. We need it. We can't be going the Kendrick Green route again.